Welcome to Blueprint Radio. I'm your host, Martin Williams. Here we help you create a blueprint for your life. So let's build. Yeah, welcome to Blueprint Radio. My name is Martin Williams. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You may do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. All the links to the podcast can be found at guidedexpressions.com/podcast with an S, or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. Today, what I wanted to talk to you about is the power of priority. So I work in the clinical research field, have done so, for many years. And when I first started, I started at a small CRO, which is a contract research organization. It's basically a company that is contracted to conduct clinical trials. And it was my introduction to this field. So I was working in a very busy office, and there was just so much to do. And so, me being a new person, once they got me up to speed, they just basically dumped a bunch of work on my desk, and I'm trying to, keep up with the demand. And so I went to my manager at the time and I asked her, I said, well, what's the priority? What needs to get done first? Because there was just a lot on my plate at the time. And she said, everything's a priority. And, I chuckled, but she wasn't joking. She said everything was the priority. And so it basically left it up to me to figure out what needed to be done first. And ultimately, I just decided to start working on something and finish it. And then I just moved on to the next thing and the next thing. I brought up that story because I know a lot of people, and perhaps you feel that you're overwhelmed. There's just so much to do, and everything feels like a priority. Everything's important, but everything's not a priority. You have to decide what is the priority in any given moment, and then work on that. When you get behind at work or in your finances or in your life, the temptation is to try to do everything to not be behind, to catch up. When doing one thing with all of your energy and all of your attention is enough to give you the momentum to turn the tide, right? Because really, when you get behind, when you get into a mode where nothing's working, you're basically just kind of showing up from day to day, but nothing's really moving in the direction that you want it to be moving. It's basically a tide. The momentum is happening, but it's happening in the direction that you don't want it to be going. You're getting deeper in debt. You're getting further and further behind at work. You're, getting further and further away from your goal weight or your desired weight. Your relationship is not moving in the direction that you want it to be moving. So it's a negative momentum push. What's going to turn that momentum around? What will turn it around is prioritizing. Because when you try to do too much, there's less power in all of your actions. If you're trying to do 10 things to turn, the momentum around at work, or turn the momentum around in your finances or in your health, right? You're probably going to end up doing maybe one or two of those things. And you're probably not going to do those one or two things very well, right? Most of us are going to live a long life. Okay. And when I say that, I'm just saying, statistically speaking, right? Most of us are going to live a long life. So you've got more time than you think, but you've got to start prioritizing. So you're not wasting time trying to do everything. What is the one thing that you can do to turn your finances around? Well, I can create a budget. That's a great one thing. So you put all your energy into creating a budget, and maybe it takes you a day or two. And now you've got a budget for the rest of the week or the rest of the month. What's the one thing you can do to turn your health around? Perhaps go walking in the morning instead of being on social media for an hour. What's the one thing you can do at work that will turn the tide? You may have to take a list of the 30, 40 things that you need to do at work. And I'm not exaggerating, because at my job, that list can get that long, right? And instead of trying to do all 30 and 40 things, do the one thing, right? That's going to change the momentum, because there's something about completing things that gives us that bolt of energy that we need to keep moving, to keep pushing, right? There's something about finishing something that in our minds, it gives us that great feeling. Doesn't it feel good to finish something, and especially something that's been hanging over your head for a while? Maybe it's taxes, maybe it's cleaning out the garage, maybe it's cleaning out your car, right? It feels great when it's done, doesn't it? Because that's how we're wired. We're wired to finish. When you're trying to do 100 things at the same time, you're not going to finish all 100 of those things. You're just not, because you're just one person. It's better to take one thing and finish it. And what it does, the goal here is to get momentum, right? Prioritizing and doing the priority gives you momentum, and you move in the direction that you want to move into. When you look at a cruise liner ship, or, what are those things in the military? Aircraft carriers, right? When you look at those ships and they start to turning those ships isn't like turning a car. It takes quite a bit of time to get that ship moving in a different direction, because it's so large and there's so much on it. And in the same way, human beings, takes a lot for people to change. Takes a lot for people to change. When I was in school, there was a book I read about coaching that we had to read as part of the class. And in the book, it said that people who have negative cardiac events, 90% of them don't change their behaviors, even when their life literally depends on it. And I never forgot that, because when we look at our lives, when change is necessary, oftentimes we don't change. Part of that is because we're stuck in our ways. But another part is that we don't make a decision to change. And we look at how much we need to change, and we get overwhelmed. And that overwhelm turns into disillusionment. And that disillusionment turns into demotivation. And that demotivation turns into not doing anything. What I'm suggesting to you on this podcast is, yeah, you got a lot on your plate. If you're trying to change your health, trying to change your finances, trying to change your business, trying to elevate your business from constantly losing money to actually making money, there are multiple things that you need to do. But what is the one thing? And maybe that one thing is letting go of an employee that's not adding anything to your business. Maybe that one thing is recognizing, hey, I'm trying to do 20 things in my business and I'm not good at 18 of them. But there's 2 that I'm really good at. So I'm going to focus on those 2 things. And I'm just going to double down on what I'm good at. And then as it grows, and when you're serving people out of a space where you are confident and competent, what will happen is that you will start to see results. And as you start to see those results and as your business begins to grow, then you're able to branch out into other things and maybe hire other people that can do those things at a higher level than you can. But the power of priority is really all about getting rid of all the stuff that's not working, all the things that you've been trying to do. And it's not that you get rid of it or it leaves your list totally, because maybe it might be a case of you might need to delegate some of that stuff if you can, right? Especially if it's a work situation. But finding that one thing, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be a small thing. It might just be an email that you've been meaning to send for 2 weeks. I've done it, right? Email that I needed to send and I haven't sent it because I'm trying to figure out the right way to word it and everything else instead of just sending the damn email, right? Finding that one thing, what's that one thing going to do? The one thing that you can do that can change the momentum, change everything. That is what you got to figure out. And when you do figure it out, everything else is going to start changing in your life because you're going to start building momentum. So you do that one thing, and then what do you do after that? You do the next thing. Okay, what's the next thing that comes up? And it's kind of like the whack-a-mole. I don't know if you ever played that at an amusement park, where that mole comes up and you try to hit it before it goes back down. It's kind of like that, right? It's like another thing's going to pop up, but you hit it. And the more things you hit, the more points you get. Same way with this. The more things you do, the more momentum you build up. And now you've got the power to turn that aircraft carrier around and put it in the direction that you've been wanting to go the entire time. So hopefully that helps you. And hopefully you can put it into practice and start today. Don't wait. All right. So my name is Martin Williams. Thank you so much for tuning in to Blueprint Radio. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to Blueprint Radio. For more information on Martin Williams coaching and products, please go to guidedexpressions.com or visit me on Facebook as well as Instagram.